Hey everybody, it's been some time since I've told a story on the channel, so I figured it's about time that I went and told another one. This one from one of my more recent campaigns. For those of you who don't know, I run more than just Wins Calamity on the channel. I also run an in-person game for a bunch of people around where I live, mainly friends. And it's honestly been a good time. The group has been together for nearly 3 or 4 years at this point, and we've gone through several campaigns. The most notable is the first one we did together that has been dubbed the Weary Travelers campaign. Funny enough, the Weary Travelers has actually engraved on this little box that my sister and brother-in-law gave for me. It now contains a lot of my spell cards, but you can hold dice, pencils, and minis in here. It's a nice little thing that they made for me for one of my birthdays a few years ago. It was one of those campaigns, a legendary one where the characters are still remembered fondly and the stories are still beloved by the players to this day. But this story lives in infamy in our group, and it's simply known as the Butcher of Luskan. So some context is definitely required for this one. Earlier on in the campaign, we had a player who was doing a tiefling warlock type character. Unfortunately, his character perma-died in the campaign after 20 or so sessions, almost around the same time as... Wait, is that a spoiler? That's probably a spoiler. But after that, the same player showed up with a half-elf bard by the name of Pierre, and he became a favorite at the table and fairly well beloved, and has even influenced several other characters for future campaigns as a bit of motivation, which is something I find really fascinating. But regardless, the reason why we bring this up is that Daxos, the tiefling warlock, died in Luskan, and they basically did a Viking funeral where they sent him off to sea, which we realized almost a year later the character effectively burned to death. So that was actually a unintentionally twisted memorial. Hindsight, right? Then eventually another player was able to join, who showed up as a character known as Octavio, a cleric paladin of Bahamut. And by the way, cleric paladin is a very strong build, but regardless, they were finally at the level that they could do a resurrection, a actual resurrection, level 7. And there's a very interesting statement regarding it, that the time frame is up into the hundreds of years of the character being dead as long as it wasn't natural means. This meant that if they were able to find Daxos' body, they could bring him back to life. And so through various clever shenanigans and use of high-level spells, because the party was about level 15 at this point, probably level 16, they decided to head to Luskan and retrieve Daxos to resurrect him for a final battle against an ancient dragon who would become a quasi-deity, because of course he did. This is level 16 play, you're gonna start fighting gods. We did have some players not there that week, but it was also a massive group of 7, so the 2 players who were unable to make it that week basically stayed behind at the keep outside of Waterdeep, while the 5 players went on and went to Luskan. And this is where the session went from a fairly standard start and veered into absolute chaos. As the party enters into the tavern, they find a wide collection of sailors and pirate alike. Smoke fills the air. Their every step fills their nostrils with scented and stale ale that matches the odor that is in the air constantly, that permeates through the cigar smoke and pipe weed. And our sorcerer notices that there appears to be a gnome halfling type person off in the distance that doesn't appear to be a sailor of sorts. Or maybe they are, and they're just in disguise. In reality, the player rolled a 1 on a natural perception, and he thought this person was a sailor despite having a sailor background. It was just a little bit of fun between DM and player. So this sorcerer by the name of Psych Harple, yes, for those of you who know Forgotten Realms, the player did insert himself into the Harple family per my permission. He was a big fan of Forgotten Realms, and I just wanted to let him have that. But regardless, he went up to this person and started talking to him like a sailor. Quickly through the conversation, Psyche realized, oh, this guy is not a sailor. He is in fact a butcher. Like, an actual butcher. Not the serial killer type butcher, an actual butcher. Which leads him to asking, oh, you're a butcher? Then surely you must have serviced many sailors. There was a long beat, as everyone was trying to contain their laughter. Myself, being the DM, trying to keep absolutely straight-faced. And then finally, we hear that awful sound. And the table was gone. There was no hope after that. One guy was just completely laughing, glasses off onto the table. That was Pierre's player. The guy playing Jarko, our Dragonborn fighter Hexblade, was lying on the couch. Octavio's player grabbed a pillow and was just hiding behind it as he was laughing into it. Another guy just went completely upstairs because he's like, well, this is going to be laughing for a while, so I might as well take this opportunity to use the restroom. All the while, Psyche's player had no idea why everyone was laughing. Naturally, we explained it to him, which led him to go, guys, that's not what I meant. I meant serviced as in helped sailors, not in that sense. I'm not calling him a prostitute. Of course, we all knew this, but still, the context was still really funny, and it caused us to just break down for roughly 5 minutes. And, well, naturally, we eventually got back on track, and we kind of leaned into that into the roleplay. And you want to know something? That's not where this story ends. So the reason they were trying to talk to a sailor is because, well, they needed a ship to get out to sea so that way they could find Daxos' body. They had a rough idea as to where it could be, again, based upon spells cast by Octavio, but they still needed to retrieve the body for a resurrection. And they eventually got the sailor. They got out to sea with appropriate spells, because again, level 15, level 16, managed to make it to the bottom of the ocean, where they managed to circumvent some encounters, and after some trial and error, did come across the body of Daxos. Still somewhat intact, but certainly intact enough for a resurrection ritual. When then, they spotted it. Off in the distance, a lumbering form, huge to gargantuan in size, with a sturdy shell surrounding it, and a elongated neck with powerful snapping jaws. They saw a dragon turtle. That they quickly took care of, mind you, because Pass Without a Trace is a lot of fun. I even boosted this thing in several areas and they still killed it. And how they killed it was, one, by doing a lot of damage, but then Octavio sending a almost max leveled casted guiding bolt to the thing. It had so little hit points that the amount of damage it did to it, I just decided as a DM for flavor and flair, because the session was already chaotic and we're having fun, that the dragon turtle basically exploded like it was in Jaws. They had their companion, Daxos, once more. They brought him back to their keep, where they performed a resurrection ritual. And for those of you wondering, yes, I do run the resurrection rituals from Matt Mercer that he also uses for Critical Role. I think they add a level of chance when it comes to characters coming back. Again, this is something that my party tends to agree with and really likes using. It's not going to be the case for everybody, so definitely run it by your table before you just say you're going to up and use it. But that's where the session ended. As they arrived in the keep, the following session was going to pick up as they were going to resurrect their friend Daxos, which they managed to successfully do, and the player and I worked together to figure out re-leveling of sorts, because it had been basically a year in real time since the player had even played Daxos. And yeah, that's the story of the Butcher of Luskan, a story that lives in infamy for my in real life group, one that we love to talk about and share to the ends of the earth. And it's a great example of how sometimes the most chaotic and comedic sessions can go down in history as some of the most memorable. Because there are ones where it's just you and friends telling a story together and insane things are happening. And not everything needs to be serious in D&D or TTRPGs. Sometimes it's completely okay to have a session that just goes completely off the walls and completely off the rails, but you are going to remember it because it was so insane. And in my book, that's a success. Well, everyone, that's the video for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this week's video, please consider giving a like, comment, and subscribe. All that good stuff helps the channel grow. As a reminder, once we reach 500 subscribers, we will be doing a giveaway. That's totally not going to date this video in any capacity, but all the same, everyone, thank you all so much for being here. You are awesome and make this a joy to do. So, from me to you, thank you so much. And as always, keep rolling those dice.